Hello, welcome to Veteran Voice. I'm Larry McCullaugh. I'll be your host today. I want to thank you all for tuning in for today's episode. We've got our guest today is someone that most of you will recognize if you've watched this program before or had anything to do with any of the Veterans Affairs and Veterans events that go on in the area. Miss Sandy Hart is with us today.
Nice to be with.
Sandy, we appreciate you coming out again today.
That's okay. Anything for the vets.
Well, you continue to do amazing things. I know that we were talking a little while ago about the recent event that you had out at Noble Park, the Thank a Veteran Day, which was also the third anniversary, I believe, of the WW2DC.
The WW2DC, the World War II vets wanted to share the day from now on with the other veterans. They realized that they were a big part of getting them out to see their memorial finally. And they had the Korean War vets were their brothers, and the Vietnam vets were their sons, and now their grandsons are over there, and so they just want to share with all of them. We had that on a Monday, and next year we'll have it on a weekend because a lot of people couldn't make it, even though we had a lot of people in shifts at this thing. There still were a lot that had to miss it because they had to work. So it will be, we've already set it for the 10th of May next year, 2008, for people to come. So be there.
Oh, yeah. I thought you had a really fair representation. I mean, obviously a lot of the World War II vets from the trip, but I saw and met several Korean veterans, some Vietnam vets. I had a good showing out there, and some of the younger members, recruiters and guys that have been to Iraq and in Afghanistan, and everybody had a very good time. It was entertaining and just an all-around good time, so we'll look forward to that next year.
Well, a young woman came in at the end, and I said, who are you? And she said, and she rattled off her name. She says, I was just in Desert Storm. You know, no big deal. Yeah, no big deal. And I said, everybody had somebody important next to them.
Yeah, well, it's no matter where you go or what you do when you're in the military, you're following orders, and you never know. You know, as I've said before, I never saw a mortar or a rocket come in and said grunts only on it. You know, anybody has the chance to get killed or maimed when they're in the line of fire, and even just everyday things that happen in the military because of the dangers that you're involved in. Right. Everybody that serves has that chance. Now, the other day when we had the kickoff, we also started off the fundraising for a really big project that you've started and been talking about for some time.
That wasn't deliberate, but I'm thrilled about the money that came in. We're always ready to put our hand out for something for the vets, and we're going to build the Kentucky Veteran and Patriot Museum and Park. It would have been just veterans originally, but you know, the president brought up the word patriot again when all of this happened, and we realized that everybody has to be aware of the danger of terrorism. It's not going to go away, and it's going to be all over. But we decided when we looked through history that if we were going to do the history of Kentucky, that it also included patriots. It wasn't necessarily someone even in the military that fought for our country. And so we want to honor all people who have served in any way to defend our honor and our liberty and our freedom since the beginning in Kentucky to the present.
So are a lot of the people that are going to be on display or featured in there are from Kentucky, the majority of them?
Yeah, the most of them even there, but some of them were originally from Kentucky and they moved away. They still have Kentucky roots in their hearts. Some of them were from somewhere else and they moved to Kentucky. But we're also going to have a library featuring anybody from any state that will be covered. We've asked people if they send us a history of a veteran from some other state to be sure and mark it on there and send the story along with it. This is going to be a learning museum. We're going to have a big old pond out there for the vets to go out there and fish for free anytime they want. We're going to have outside exhibits, and we're going to have art contests and essay contests for the students of the schools around here because we want them to know what was given up for them. We want them to know to always respect a veteran if they run into them, to thank them.
So that's another way, by getting them involved in what's going to be going on at the museum, to start getting them involved at a young age. I know that.
Absolutely. We've asked everyone, as I asked you, to volunteer at least one day a year. They can volunteer more than that, but we have people that have volunteered to make costumes of all these different periods, not only of the men who were away from home, but the people back home and how life went through these different generations. And we will have reenactments out there. There'll be something for everyone, because as I've said before, every veteran has a family and every family has veterans.
I think that that's something a lot of people are a lot more aware of now than they have been in the past with the particular war on terrorism that we're in now, is the families. And I think the reason that came to the forefront, my opinion, is that because they've had more reserve and National Guard units activated than ever before, as far as going into a full-scale operation like this. Whereas before you had years ago you had the draft, and then we've had the volunteer army for several years. So they always had the manpower that they needed, and they were able to fill all the spots they did. In this particular case, because of the size of the operation, guys who probably knew that there was a chance they might go into combat, but really didn't think it would ever happen, have been called up and activated, and it is a hardship on the family. The wife all of a sudden has got to take care of everything, and the kids and the bills and the little car malfunctions that happen, and it needs tires, and this goes wrong and that goes wrong, and the sink's clogged up or leaking, and they're having to take the whole brunt of things now.
They have, unless the community pulls together. You know, in areas where they are insulting our people who are over there, I haven't seen anything as badly operated in our country since Vietnam, where people are, not the majority of people, but the ones who have said that they're murderers and, you know, they're over there doing all the wrong things. For one thing, they need to see what they're doing, what they're accomplishing over there, the way that they're helping the Iraqi people. They're doing amazing things to defend our honor and to help the people of Iraq. And I think the neighbors that pull together with these wives when they're left, and sometimes the husbands, because sometimes the wife is the one over there,
yeah,
and they help them put up the hay. And maybe New York isn't like that, but around here it is, and they help babysit and different things. I've heard a lot of wonderful stories about the support of the community with the wives or the husbands that's left behind.
So in the museum, there will also be examples of family members who are that supported the veteran or soldier or sailor at the time.
Oh, and neighbors, like I said, and neighbors. You know, during World War II, there were the blue stars in the windows. I didn't know what any of this was. As I've told you before, my mom and dad didn't tell us the details back then. While my dad was still alive, he had been during World War II and 7 uncles, and we were told never to bother him, never to ask him. It wasn't that we didn't want to know something, it's that we were just told not to ask them. And the doctors back there told them that if they didn't talk about it, it would just go away. I think it was mine and your generation before people started saying, wait a minute, you hold it in and it never goes away, and you need to talk about it. But I asked my mother before she died about a picture that had a blue star in the window, and she told me about the blue star that stood for who you had, and it was turned to gold star if you lost someone. The neighbors were so close. Every home, I guess, just about had some star. You had 2 or 3 or whatever if you had somebody else, more than one son in there. And that really touched me, the way that my husband talked about getting the inside of cigarette packs because of the metal on them, and picking up anything and everything that they thought would help the country back then. I'd like to see that again. I'd like to see that inspiration when I see people out there eating their 3rd helping of food. And they say, our country is ripping us off and we don't have anything for us. They don't know what it's like to really sacrifice and do without in the middle of a crisis that our country's having.
Yeah, because as a rule, we really don't have a lot of sacrifices that are being made by the general community.
But that's what we want to tell about with this museum. I mean, we want to tell about the past, we want to tell about the present, and we want to tell about the future. I mean, as long as someone's fighting for our freedom in this country, this museum will never be finished. I brought these along. These are magnets, and you may wonder why I brought magnets along. But these are like the different wars, that are the different veterans from the different wars. And, you know, if they lost somebody, it was like broken open for a while and they didn't think it was going to repair. But it would go back together because everybody would sort of watch out after those families, and they'd get the widow out to visit them again. But all of these stayed separate until recently. And the one thing that WW2DC did, and now the museum is going to work on, is we've started putting all of this together. See? And all the wars, when you guys got to talking, you found out that you all lost buddies. Every one of you lost buddies. You know, every one of you sacrificed. Every one of you came home with hurts that other people you thought didn't understand. And now that the different generations are comparing it, it's coming together as one.
That's the common bond that I think that for so many years you didn't have. Vietnam vets stayed to themselves, and Korea vets, and World War II vets, and so on. And the camaraderie that starts getting built at the veteran service organizations like the VFW and
Absolutely.
the American Legion and the DAV. You start to talk to people that are of a different age and a different era, and you realize that the stories they're telling are pretty much the same thing you've been through with a little bit of a different twist. But that's when you realize that you've got more in common with that old guy than you thought you did.
Absolutely.
And he finds out that young whippersnapper ain't as worthless as he actually thought he was in the beginning. So it's been a real healing process, and it's been really good.
Yeah, nobody's been supportive of the organizations like I have been, and I've been able to go to them, and they've been supportive of me and what I've done. I've been amazed at the camaraderie that comes out of the organizations. Organizations are having a rough time because people are not as ready to give and be a part of and know what our veterans need. And right now, the Veterans Administration is not always there.
Yeah.
Like they need to be. And I get phone calls every week from people needing help, needing guidance, and I try and find somebody to help them. And I usually bug you at the VFW or American Legion, somebody, or David Bradshaw or somebody, to try and help these people out.
Well, that's the thing, is we've all got to work together. And there are veterans out there that don't want any help. They're self-sufficient. They can take care of themselves, and they can be a little bullheaded about it at times. I know I've been. But sometimes you just got to say, this is over my head. I need some help.
Absolutely.
And you don't know where to turn. And when you turn to the service organizations, you find out that there's help available, and they can lead you down the right path so you can get to the right person. And it's probably not going to happen quickly. The VA just does not, they're not setting any speed records.
But if we keep at it, if we bind together and we keep at them, it works better. I was going to show you, I've got a room, a solid, I wanted to give you one of the buttons.
Well, thank you, dear.
Because you're absolutely part of this. We have received books on World War II. We have received books on Vietnam. We received the Civil War. And we received books on the Korean War already. And so not all of these came from veterans. Everybody is hearing about it. Widows, widowers, children of veterans, everybody wants to make sure that this museum takes place. And we even have, I may go on Deal or No Deal if it happens. They have me send a tape into Deal or No Deal. And their thing is that anything that we can try. Sandy Hart isn't putting this museum together. The veterans are putting this museum together. I've just got my big mouth going again. And anything I can do to help, I'll do. This little thing here is a Bible. There's been many of them through the years. And I'm amazed at the stories that the guys have that we're going to put in there about this, not this particular one, sometimes a smaller one, in their pocket, that has saved their life. I can't get over now. I was told recently that there was a plate in some of them. Do you know? Are you familiar with that?
No.
And that's one of the things that saved, stopped the bullets, was that. And I can't get over how many veterans were a part of spreading the word of God by carrying their Bibles with them, and then that Bible in turn saved their lives. That was an interesting story. It's come out quite a few times.
I know that I told people I was not very religious until I got to Vietnam. I got very religious very fast because I knew I was going to need all the help I could get. It had to come from other people besides my buddies. I was going to need a lot of luck too.
Absolutely. I listened to story after story after story, and people said, aren't they all running together? Aren't they sounding the same? And I said, no. Even the ones that run along the same line, they have their own flavor, their own color to it. The feelings of their families back home, being away from. I'm glad to say that computers are in there now, and the stint over there isn't as long. Nobody is having to stay, 4, 5, 6 years without coming home. And World War II was something else. It really was. But still, any time away from home. We talked about a man recently that was a Bataan Death March survivor. He just celebrated his 90th birthday this past year.
My
And he
Lord.
got over 1,100 cards by the time.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah,
I remember
because
that.
all he wanted was 90 cards for his birthday. He didn't want any presents. And so I got in touch with our local media. And I said, I think he should get at least 900. Well, I don't know what he wound up with. But they had heard about the girl that was kidnapped, that was serving our country at the beginning of this war. And his daughter told me that she said, oh, she don't know what it's like to really go through it because she wasn't put through it for that long. And he got after, she said, he really got after me because he said if they're kidnapped for any amount of time, if they're a POW for any time, during that time they're convinced that they're going to die.
Oh, the
And they
trauma
go
would
through
be.
it. Yeah, so he says, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what war they were in. It doesn't matter the amount of time. He said they don't have to be Bataan Death March survivor or a POW in a camp in order to know the fear that you're not going to go home, that you're going to die. And so she said, I learned a new respect for the ones serving now.
I think that incidents like that happen, I think, on a regular basis that reinforce things that we've known for a long time, but every now and then something comes along that will kind of drive it home again so that you realize that, well, I thought about that years ago, but here we are with the same situation. I know recently they had three fellas that ended up missing from a mission, an ambush, and they go all out to try and find these individuals, and you just never know where they might be or what they might be going through.
Absolutely.
And a lot of pain can be inflicted in a short period of time when you're being held prisoner.
That's right. Well, and like he said, just the fear in your heart, knowing what are they going to do with me. Even that is horrendous. I just really believe that if our veterans are on the front line for us, we owe them an allegiance. We owe them trust. If they go into the front lines, and so many, you point out yourself, so many have joined up without being drafted. It's true that some have gone over but some of them joined up just to go over. My nephew the other day went back in. He's got 2 babies. He's got a wife, and he's heading to Afghanistan. But he went to Fort Dix first, the night before all that happened.
Oh my goodness.
But it shows that terrorism is closer than what we think.
Yeah.
And I think if we don't trust him and we yank him back and do all this stuff like we did in Vietnam, it's worse this time because the terrorism is what we're fighting. We're not fighting a country. We don't know who we're fighting. And we have to keep them at bay. And our brave military is doing it. When I want to know what's going on, I don't go to the press. I don't go to the politicians. I've been at the airport. I've met them in parks. I've been to their home. And I said, tell me what's going on. And when they tell me, Mrs. Hart, it's working. I wish you could see the work that we're doing, Mrs. Hart, over there, and the connection with the Iraqi people. Their final message to me is, don't listen to anybody but us when we tell you we're winning the war. And so I have to trust them.
A lot of the fellows that I've interviewed on the program here and talked to as we go around to places that are in the recent 3 or 4 years, all sing the same song. Mm-hmm. We're getting things accomplished over there, but you just don't hear about that. You always hear about the negative stuff, and I think it's been that way through every war. It's the bad news sells,
Right.
But
well, I've been asked, and a lot of our veterans were asked this weekend, as you know, what their opinion is of this war, what's going on in Iraq, and what Congress's plans are. And I was asked before the celebration, and I said they're all going to give you basically the same answer. And they wanted to know if I thought Vietnam vets thought differently than World War II vets. And I said, no, absolutely not. Support the warrior. Hate the war.
Yeah.
Hate the war with a passion. I said, I've never met a veteran that loved war.
No.
They hate the war, but support that warrior. And I said, if you say something negative in this country, if anybody stands out with their sign or they say something negative in this country, within seconds from their lips to those terrorist ears, and when we have people in harm's way, specifically the ones that are missing now, we know of the stories in Vietnam where they actually ran these tapes for them and said, this is what your country thinks of you. I don't want them to have to go through that. I want them to know that we're as much behind them as during World War II the people were behind them. we're going to support them in their efforts as long as they're in harm's way. They're doing this for us. They're giving up for us. They're sacrificing. They didn't have to put their name on that line. They weren't drafted. The least we can do is trust them.
Yeah. Well, I want to get back to the museum for a second. Now, when as I understand, it'll be like going through a little time trip as you go in.
Absolutely.
Where do you start, with the Civil War? Or
Well, we start with the letter K for Kentucky. The building is going to be in the letter K. And when the guys fly over, the biggest leg of the K, they'll see the imprint of the American flag up there. They're going to know that this area is proud of what they're doing. Then the other legs will be Kentucky blue, which seems appropriate.
Yeah, it does.
I'm not letting them put a basketball up there. We've discussed that. But as you go through, you're going to go through the original days, Daniel Boone, whatever, the original days of all the heroes. And then you're going to go, the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, all the different wars. We're going to step through it all the way through. We'll have a special section for WW2DC. We'll have the World War I, World War II, Korean, Vietnam, Desert Storm, and what's going on now.
Or are you going to have arrangements made to where, as the next conflicts come up, as they probably will in the near future,
it'll be there. We're going to have a viewing room upstairs. There'll be offices upstairs. It'll be 2-story, and we'll have a viewing room upstairs, and people can sit and watch the films, not just the ones that people have made of history, but the ones that you all have made, different ones have made of the local veterans. Of course, a lot of them probably won't be around as people look at this. That's why I want to thank you and the college so much for doing what you've done on recording the stories of these veterans, because they would have just gone and that would have been the end of it. They weren't talking at first, and they're really talking now. They're really opening up and letting us know, even though there's pain, they're learning that the pain is easier when it's shared.
Well, speaking for the folks here at the college, I think I can, and for myself, is I was scared to death when we first started doing this, but it's evolved into something that I enjoy doing, and I know that they enjoy doing. We have fun doing it, but it's educating the public and entertaining them also when we can. And you, as a matter of fact, at the ceremony, you gave me a very nice plaque that was to me and to the West Kentucky Community and Technical College, and I'm going to show that off over at the VFW for a while. But I think after everybody's seen it over there, I'm going to bring it out here and have the TV station keep it on their walls, because they do a lot. It's not just me and the guest here. There's a lot of people that are involved in making this whole thing fly. And we feel that we're doing a service to the community. And
Stephanie Milliken at the college here has done the drawings of the building. She's done the architectural drawings, both floors, and she's worked up what it's going to look like, being able to walk around and see what this museum's going to be. I'm grateful for a lot of reasons for that, because the donation of her time and effort and everything, but also a lot of our World War II vets will not be around. A lot of our Korean and Vietnam vets, something could happen tomorrow to them. But a lot of our World War II vets, they're going to be gone in a few years, all of them. And they'll be able to see what it's going to look like if they don't last to the end. They're going to be able to dream and plot and fill us in, and a lot of them have things to donate. A lot of them already have donated things. The biggest reason I'm grateful to you is before I even knew that you did this show. I don't even know if you did this show when we first got together, but you believed in what I did. You didn't, you may have called me crazy, but it wasn't in my face. But you called and you encouraged, and my husband and I both appreciate everything that you've done. Speaking of my husband, Ray Hart is not here with me, but where is Ray? Ray started as the behind-the-scenes guy.
Okay.
He's never quite worked it up to be there and let his own light shine, so I'm going to shine a little bit for him. But the trip itself, Ray did all the planning for that. Ray called and dickered with people and everything for me. And while I was out raising the funds, he even finally got out there and sat in front of Walmart and different places helping me raise money. And this has been his dream too. And when Stephanie had to talk to somebody, I knew what I wanted, but I didn't know how to put it across. I could say, okay, this is what I want. And Ray says, okay, let's work out this floor plan. And he's done all of that. He's just amazing. He's been on the phone, and he's going to get us tanks, and he's going to get us one of the WW2DC buses and everything donated. We're going to do a lot of things, but it was his idea to drain the pond and make it twice as big. And and put it in there for the guys to fish and take it easy. And we'll put something else in there in the wintertime when it gets too cold to fish. We'll have something else interesting for you. There's going to be constant surprises with this thing, a constant turn of events, because I may be the cheerleader for this thing, but the veterans have told me what they want, and the veterans going to be looking it over, and if something isn't accurate, they're going to let me have it.
They'll let you know.
And I'll change it. I'll change it, and I'll make it more accurate for them.
Well, I'll tell you what, we got a couple minutes left here. Is there anything that the community can do to let you to help out? I mean, do you want? Are you into the fundraising part of money?
Give money.
Money's
yeah.
nasty to get rid of that
well,
stuff here.
yesterday was not a fundraiser. I mean, specifically, it was a celebration of our veterans. But the money was a nice surprise. I mean, Walmart and Ballard Telephone and C-Plant all pitching in and showing up with checks and a promise of more in the future. That was wonderful. But it, just like the trip, it doesn't just come with the big donations from corporations, from businesses and organizations. It comes from the person walking past us when we're sitting out in front of the store or at a carnival or something, or any kind of celebration in our different counties around here. It's saying, you know what, I haven't got much. I've rolled a lot of pennies, nickels, and dimes and quarters, since everything has started. But just, it's their way of feeling good and saying, you know what, I was a part of that. I helped make that happen. And volunteerism, coming out there and helping and stuff. I had a man stop in line yesterday and said, I'm an electrician, and when you get ready to do the electrical work, I want to help. I want to do my part. That's wonderful, and it was a veteran,
That's what it takes to keep things going. When you got people volunteering to come in and do things, I've had that happen in the last year as the commander of the VFW, and we've done well. We've accomplished a lot of things, and I've told them it's not because of me. It's because I got a bunch of good people that will give of their own time and talent and expect nothing in return and do a lot of work. And when you do that, it's contagious. Everybody else wants to get involved too.
Absolutely. I have been guilty of saying I can do it myself and I don't have to bother people. That's really wrong to do. I still slip into it. I made phone calls, and I did have people call and say, if you need some volunteer to do this or that. I should have let go of some of it because it really did wind up a big thing. But when we got out there yesterday, did you see all the people, the veterans and veteran wives saying, let me do, let me take, let me. And I could have never done that yesterday. It took everybody. And people were setting up tables and putting out pictures and setting out food, and it was just, and the talent, all that talent that they'll see when the show was, all the talent was free. Everybody wanted to volunteer to do their part to entertain for the veterans, and I thought that was great. Not a dime attached to it.
Well, I'll tell you what, your attitude and just the things that you want to do is contagious. So I'm going to have you back from time to time so you can give us progress reports. In the meantime, if people out there happen to hear anything about the museum, you've got the bumper stickers and the buttons out
and the mouth.
That's right, and everybody start talking this up. And if you've got an older relative or a relative who's a veteran of any type that it's got some memorabilia that he could spare and give up, it'll just be something more that they can add to this museum.
And they don't have to donate it. They can give it on loan to the museum in case the family changes their mind later. They can put it on loan for a short time or a lifetime.
Well, I'll tell you what, you come back and give us updates from time to time. We'll keep this thing going, okay?
We'll keep having those bets on.
All right. Thanks for coming on the program today, Sandy. We hope you've enjoyed this this issue of Veteran Voice, and we hope you'll come back and see us next time, and we'll try to keep you educated and entertained. Thank you. See you next time.